Okay, welcome. Welcome to the History of LA Ska one-on-one sessions. I'm Junor Francis. Now, this series celebrates the ska, rocksteady, and vintage reggae scene in Southern California and beyond through insightful conversations with legends and modern-day players, including those behind the scene. And as always, numerous people are always working behind the scene to make this successful. This is a tremendously special episode, one that will be very near and dear to all of us. It is so cripplingly sad that in December of last year, meaning 2021, family, friends, bandmates from the Debonaires and the Revivers and the ska scene all across the world lost a true talent and an amazing young man in bassist Jason Napayon. Hope I said it correctly.
Napayon.
So the Y is active. Napayon.
Yeah.
Irreplaceable and of course incomparable. He was a bass player. You guys are going to tell us more, and also a composer. Perhaps been with a band since its inception. Am I correct?
Yeah, pretty much. He joined it a little bit after, but definitely he's been in since the beginning, since we've been together so long.
Well, on this episode, we are joined by his friends and bandmates from Riverside, California, the largest city in California, east of Los Angeles. And the Debonaires been around since mid 90s. And I think no one can question the fact that we have you guys here tonight. It's been earned. You have earned your place on the show. After, what, going on 3 decades now, right?
Almost, yeah.
Wow.
anything past 20 is going. Wonderful. But it was much to your credit, man, the Debonaires. So let me respectfully ask each member to introduce yourself.
Okay, my name's Mano Mirande. I play guitar.
In no particular order.
I'm Mike Presser. I also play guitar.
My name is my name is Woody Diaz. I play drums.
I'm Kip Wirtzfeld. I also play drums and guitar. And sing a little. It's saxophone a little.
That's bad. And I'm Ryan Tomazin. I play the keyboards.
We have many hats. Gentlemen, it's good to be here. As we said before, this is a special occasion, profoundly sad, cripplingly sad that we had to lay to rest Jason. But that was a very moving show you guys did in tribute to him. People came from all over Southern California at the Riverside to that show. How old was he approximately?
He was 41.
40.
Right.
Yeah.
42 or 40. Yeah.
Well,
I know he's a little over after 40.
Wow.
still very young, very young.
Of course. Are you kidding me? Of course. You know, as you mentioned, that my aunt died this past week, 99. And she had faculties and never been sick. So 41, man, is not even half my aunt. Her sight was diminishing on her hearing, but otherwise, man, she was just kicking, walking up and down. Yeah. So back to the questions that we said we would get into seriously. Let's talk about each individual member, your family, your friends, where you went to school, because everyone wants to know. At least I want to know.
Okay. I'll start. So we're all from Riverside, California. We all met pretty much in high school. So of the people that are here, I went to high school with Mike and Ryan, and Woody went to North with Jason. That's how we met. Kip also went to the same high school as we did, but he graduated a few years before we did.
Thanks.
So Yeah, the Riverside music scene in general in the mid 90s at the time, there's a lot of punk shows at the Showcase Theater, the Barn, and before that at Spanky's. And there's a lot of punk and ska. So in high school, I know me, Mike, and Ryan all liked both. But we ended up wanting to, or we decided to start a ska band. So a lot of people were into two-tone ska. That's kind of how I got into it. And then naturally, learned that those bands are covering Jamaican ska bands. So that's when I started learning more about the Scotalites and all that, and then learning about the scene going on in Southern California with Hepcat, Ocean 11, and a lot of those bands. So when we formed in 95, the earlier days with the Blackpool shows that Luis was doing before Steady Beat had already passed. As I said, Spanky's had already closed in Riverside. So we sort of missed the early traditional scene. Kip can speak on that more also, because he played in a few bands before joining the Debonaires, so he had some experience in the scene also.
Mm-hmm. What high school? Because it's all you guys came from the same high school. Was it a music school?
Yeah, we went to Poly High School, and Woody and Jason and our original sax player Dave went to North High School.
Yeah, big up to your high school. Produce some great music.
Yeah.
You're not kidding. Wow. And how many members, when you first started out, how many members were in the band?
Yeah, anybody else want to talk about the early days with our other members?
Man, the early days, I think we might have had like 11 or 12 at one time. In the early days, we had
orchestra.
Yeah, we had a couple of female backup vocalists. We, like a lot of early ska bands, we went through a lot of different changes, a lot of different horn players in the first year or two. We had a different drummer, right off the bat, but Woody came in pretty quickly afterward. We got to give a lot of credit to Dave Sackover, our one of our original sax players. He kind of bridged the gap between, he brought Poly and North and these two schools and these different members together to form the Debs. When I joined, Ryan and I were playing kind of in a punk band at the time, and I got into ska and reggae probably, I don't know, in retrospect, it was probably only a couple months after Mano did it. Mano kind of recruited me for the band, and I had to borrow a lot of CDs from him right off the bat and learn about like, what is this genre of music? So I came from a classic rock background, and I was, it was in the Rancid and Minor Threat and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit of a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I should add that Mike and I had known each other since we were in 5th or 6th grade. So we started playing guitar, learning to play guitar in junior high. And so we were already close friends and learning to play. So becoming musicians when we decided to form the band. And Ryan here was also an original member. He's sort of a multi-instrumentalist. So he was playing bass actually before Jason came on board.
The early days, Ryan and I would switch off on bass. So he would play bass on some songs and I would play guitar, and then I'd play bass and he'd jump on the keys. So
versatility.
Yeah. And our relationship with Ryan goes back, before the band too. We all knew each other in middle school as well.
This is totally irrelevant, but I should say, so when Ryan told me he was leaving town, I told him he's making a mistake. I said,
get a phone call. I got a phone call.
Yeah.
He said, no, you're making a mistake. I just took the liberty and the audacity to say that I'm not as vocal now. I said, man, you can't leave the band.
I mean, there was definitely periods of time, during our, our college years when Mano went up to San Francisco, he was trekking it down for practices, couple times a month, making shows. So even Ryan going to San Diego and Mano going up north, we still somehow managed to make it work.
Yes.
Yeah, we were able to record and release 2 albums also somehow. I don't know how we pulled that.
And we also recruited some musicians from there too.
Yes.
From San Diego.
Yep.
And Trombone Tom, took up the slack when you were absent. He really, I didn't know he was so versatile. I saw him on the keys. I said, yeah, how come I don't have that sort of skill? I can just go from instrument to instrument.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually left for a while when he joined the Marines. And when he was stationed there, there's Roberto.
Hey, Roberto.
You want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Roberto?
Good evening, gentlemen. Roberto Ronquillo, saxophone, Debonaires. Just got home from softball practice, guys. Sorry.
It's all good.
Nice.
So we should mention, he's one of our newer members, a sax player that took over after Dave moved. And I was talking about Tom moved to, he was stationed in Virginia, I think. And that's where he met Josh Georgie, who also played trumpet for us for a number of years, who's also based in the Bay Area. One other thing I should mention too, when we're talking about high school in the early years, is that Tony Green was our original singer, who's now the singer for the Revivers. So our first album, Tony was the lead vocalist. That we recorded that when we were still in high school. And Kip played sax and sang backup vocals, and we just loved working with him. And when Tony was no longer in the band, that's when Kip ended up coming on board as lead vocalist.
But yeah, right. So we've gone through a lot of different players, right? Like Roberto kind of came in for Dave, and kind of how Mano was saying earlier, Dave kind of bridged that gap to where, I knew Dave for several years, and, kind of like Mike was saying, I had a different background, but, I had heard, in Riverside kind of causing a stir, the Debonaires playing different shows, and, I was very aware of them. And, the first drummer, Aaron Hanna, he had quit or whatever, he moved on. And so Dave said, hey man, we need a drummer, would you be interested? And I said, I mean, yeah, I've heard about you guys. I want to see what's good. I want to get involved. And similar to Mike, I really didn't have much of a background. I mean, I knew Bob Marley and some of the icons and that kind of stuff. But Dave had brought me over to practice and, played me some recordings, gave me some Scotolite CDs and said, hey man, this is what you have to learn. This is how we're trying to sound. And so, I took that on. And Tony is actually the first singer. He was Jason's cousin. Right. And I don't know if that's how Jason got involved, but I knew Jason from high school too. And, so yeah, I remember Ryan and Mike always trading off bass, and then, we had Jason at one practice, and it was just, solid from the start, and he just came in and that was that. And, I didn't know him too well, but of course, over the years got to know him, really well, and, locked in and all that stuff. But yeah, so, we've definitely gone through a lot of different players, and it's interesting because even when Tom was gone, and we had a different trombone player, different trumpet player, but Tom came right back in, and of course, he's always going to have a spot with us. So that that was nice when he came back.
Yeah, it was a relatively short period of time, but in high school it seems like a long time. So when we first started was 95, but really by 97, I'd say 98 at the latest, we've had the core members have still been in the band since then. So
Tom's always been integral. I think he took, just coming out of the army, he was a disciplinarian, so he's always kind of, we always refer to him kind of as the sergeant. He just keeps the horn line in order, and I feel like the horns are always intimidated playing next to him. Dave was always afraid if he was going to be a slight beat ahead or behind. Like, oh.
yeah, Tom's not
Yeah,
afraid.
he's pretty serious.
Yeah, he's not afraid to give the side eye during someone's solos sometimes, especially in the early days.
Yeah.
I remember when I heard him, I said, man, that drummer is alive in Riverside of all places.
Yeah, totally.
So where did the name come from? Because in doing my research for tonight, I noticed that there's another Debonaire from the doo-wop era, perhaps who were based on the East Coast. Where did the name come from?
We found out later about that. There's also there was a Jamaican band that put out a 45 also called the Debonaires, and we didn't know, so we went through a few different names, none that were very memorable. I actually, my girlfriend at the time, her sister recommended it, and I liked it and brought it up to everyone else, and it stuck, and it's fitting for the kind of the music in the scene, dressing sharp, just being debonair, and definitely in the early days, we were wearing suits to every show and stuff before we outgrew them.
It's easier in the early days.
So Robert, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from? I want to assume it's Riverside.
Who are you asking?
Robert.
Roberto.
Roberto.
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
Oh, let me try in English. I was saying it in Jamaican. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, he was. So how did you get involved with the Debs?
Oh my goodness. The bands, I've played with countless bands before Debonaires. Every band that I was with before Debonaires, Debonaires in Riverside, Debonaires, they're like, they're the epitome of what Riverside, the sound of Riverside is. So every time, Debonaires are playing here, Debonaires are playing there. All right, cool. Well, I caught my first show, 2010. I couldn't catch him in 95 or 98. I was still in grade school when that happened. So luckily, about 2010, between 2010 and 2012, I saw him at the Mission Tobacco Lounge. It was definitely a rare opportunity. I think they were playing with the Slackers, actually. And it's the first time I bought an online ticket. There you go. First time. So, being with the Debonaires, I couldn't wait. I saw them play, was just in awe. As soon as they got off the stage, I ran to Kip. He's over here putting away his saxophone. I'm over here asking for a picture. Same thing with Jason and Mike. I still got the pictures, guys. Still have them. And that's where I just, I just kept playing, and I would see Mano at the Mission Tobacco Lounge. Sometimes I'd screw around and be like, hey, dude, you want a saxophone player? I'm here if you want anything. And just one day.
Were you met with rejection at first when you asked?
Oh, absolutely. That,
I was joking. I didn't know it.
Never fathomed the idea. I just always just screwing around, beer in my hand. Hey, Debonaires, saxophone, let's go. And you can tell him he doesn't like alto players. So I'll play the alto for you. No, we don't want an alto player in the band. All right, that's cool. I can do tenor maybe. So,
I tried that.
And it's working.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but being part of the band, finally 2013 was the magic year.
Yes.
and what they had just mentioned with Tom just earlier about just his charisma, right? His character. He was the first person I met. I think Mike was there, living with Tom at the time, and I went straight to the garage with Tom. So did you practice the music? Yeah, man. Okay, play it. Now,
Sergeant Tom.
Yeah. Okay, so here I am, have no idea who Tom is. I have no idea who Mike is. I met Mano. It's the first guy I met. And so yeah, we get together, we start learning the horn lines, and then it's just all history from there. But it's been an absolute blessing working with these guys, being able to share the stage with them. And it's to the point now where I get to do exactly what they've done to me in terms of inspire through their music. Because now I have students, children of my own. Debonaires. Oh, it's Mr. Ronquillo, Debonaires. I'm like, yes, they love the music. I've been able to pass it along, and it's all because these guys have been so influential, not just in the Riverside area, but just in general with their taste in music, their dapper persona. But it's been definitely a ride.
Okay, it seems as if the cat took your tongue. You're not talking tonight. But tell us a little bit about your background, your family upbringing. Who are some of your influences? I'm picking on you.
Yeah.
You can't pick from where you are.
Well, I'm originally from Lincoln, Nebraska. Born and raised right in the Midwest. Moved to Colorado for a while, and from Colorado moved to Riverside, California. Came out here in '86. Didn't really know anybody. Came from a really strange culture to this culture, completely different. Midwest life is a little bit slower than, let's say, the West Coast here. So I started school here. I played basketball every single day. I couldn't believe that you could play basketball at lunchtime, and there was no snow and no seasons. I wasn't really used to that. I played basketball at lunchtime with flip-flops on. I couldn't believe it. You could do that kind of thing. So I played a lot of basketball when I got here. I have a punk rock upbringing. I grew up with classic rock. We didn't have a whole lot of soul music in the Midwest. I just didn't grow up around it until I came out here, and that's where I really got into the oldies and started finding out more about this West Coast punk rock thing. I didn't realize that most of the bands that I listened to were from here, either up north California or somewhere around here in the Bay. But and during high school, I really got into a band called Fishbone. One of my friends got me, hit me to them. And one of my other friends, his name's Joey Hernandez, played with this band called Voodoo Glow Skulls. And we would trade tapes and he would talk about a saxophone, and I would talk about, music that I liked. And he's like, hey, how about a mixtape? And it had a bunch of two-tone stuff on it. I said, what the hell is this? I said, I'm digging this. I was like, wow, horns, sort of punk rock. I'm all about it, So never really been a jazzer. So, in high school, I played a little bit of music in high school. I played in a jazz band, and I marched for a quick minute. And as soon as I got out of high school, I then started playing with other bands and meeting people at college. And sort of almost before I got into college, I was going to shows, Spankies, and a lot of other local shows in town. And but really, when I got into college is really when I started hitting the scene. And Paul Hampton from the Skeletones asked me, hey, you think you want to play sax for us? I was like, nah, I had gotten an accident a few years earlier, and I was having surgery on my shoulder, and I just was like, I can't do it right now. And then he kept bugging me like, hey man, we need a saxophone player. We need a saxophone player. And so I eventually ended up playing with him, started playing with the Skeletones. And at that same time, I was also playing with this band called Orange Street. So Orange Street, you can find Orange Street on an old Lewis compilation, Steady Beat compilation. I played with Lucky Seven for a quick minute, and then I was playing with the Skeletones for a while, and then I started playing with Dynamics. Did some work with them for a minute, and then like probably 93 or 94, I started hanging out with Tony Green, which is Jason's cousin, his sister. We went to school together, so we used to hang out and we were partying. It was probably Bernie Garcia, her, and a couple of other friends, and so we were always hanging out, getting wild, and going to ska shows, and just running all over the place. And really, Bernie Garcia, I spent a lot of time with Bernie Garcia, and he's the one who was like, always trying to get me to play with all these bands. Like, hey, there's this band over here. You want to play something on them? I'll look it up for you. Just come with me. I'll drive you. So he would drive me to the shows, and he would hook me up with whoever wanted. You need a little saxophone. And so I would mess around with them. And then with the Debonaires, he's like, oh yeah, you should come hang out with these guys. And I said, oh well, Mike and Jason like to play basketball. so and at the time, Mike was living in this little apartment over by UCR. I think isn't that where you lived? Over by UCR?
Yeah.
With your brother over there?
My brother, I don't know. Tom for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom. And so I would go over there and play basketball with, get a crew out there and play basketball, because you had a pretty nice court back there. And so that was pretty fun. I think that's probably when I started getting like, man, we had to hang out with these guys a little bit more. And I think I was back from a tour or something, and I can't remember if Bernie was like, hey, you need to, or if it was Tony was like, oh, hey, we're in the studio, you want to come down and mess around, backup vocals or some junk like that. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'm not doing anything, no job. I'm just running around in the streets. So I said, yeah, sure. So I think what was like third floor recording, some weird
third floor studios,
third floor studios, some strange place. And it's really like a progressive rock type place. I don't remember what it was all about, but
it was like reverb on everything.
Yeah, like a 3-story condo or home, and they had, setting up amps in the bathroom. So when someone's going to the bathroom, you're picking it up, and
it was weird.
But that was our first album. But yeah, I remember when you recorded on that, we were just in awe of your vocal range, and just I remember playing, because you sang that maybe it was like a 20-second clip at the end of one of the songs, and I just play that part over and over, like, man.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I had a really good time playing with you guys.
Somehow you're fading in the background. I'm not sure if it's deliberate. All right. There you go. All right. Now we can see. I think. Yeah. This is for posterity. 100 years from now, your friends want to see you. But Ryan, you haven't said much. I think we have spoken for you, but you haven't said much about your upbringing, your parenting.
Oh yeah, I'm also Riverside,
music you listen to at home, huh?
Born and raised in Riverside, and parents also Riverside. And I think the first time I go back with Mano and Mike to junior high. In fact, the first time I met Mike, I was in 6th grade and I got in a fight with him.
First time you meet.
Playing basketball. We got in a fight.
There you go.
I don't remember this.
Yeah.
And Mike won. But anyway.
Fight on the game.
So then zoom forward. I think I got into reggae a little bit. I had a babysitter that played reggae, and she would lay out and play Bob Marley. And I was probably about 9 years old. And I said, "What is that really beautiful music?" She goes, "Oh, that's Bob Marley." And so I went out and bought a Bob Marley cassette. And I listened to that cassette nonstop. And then when I met Mano and Mike in 8th grade, I remember I played him that cassette. I'm like, check this out. And they were like, "Ah, that's all right. Yeah, okay." And so anyway, me and Mike joined a punk band, and during that time, around 95, 96, a lot of kids in high school, they were kind of searching for their identity. So one person would be a rude boy, one person would be, "Hey, I'm a skater, I'm a rude boy, I'm a skinhead," and so one day, "Hey, I'm a rude boy." Oh, the next day, "Hey, you're dressed differently." Oh, today I'm a skinhead. Yesterday I was a rude boy. So it was at the time, Mano had a jacket and he had all these pins on it, and I said, "Well, that's pretty cool. Are those like different bands?" And he said, "Yeah, this band's called Hepcat. This one is, like a Skeletones." And I said, "Oh, cool. Is that?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm a rude boy." And I said, "Okay, that's cool, man." And he said, "Hey, check." He gave me a CD. He said, "Check out this CD. It's called Hepcat." It was Hepcat's first album, Out of Nowhere. I took that home and I listened to that thing nonstop, And at the time, I also was very much into the Skeletones too. Kip doesn't know this, but I was pretty starstruck whenever he became our lead singer, and I was pretty intimidated. But anyway, so for me, it was the same kind of journey where I kind of got into sort of two-tone ska, and then was introduced to, oh, this is traditional ska. This is where this music originally originated from. And as a lot of people got into it, and next thing I know, I'm playing in the Debonaires at one of our first practices, and I think we learned a couple covers. Perfidia was one of them, and at that point, I knew that I was going to be in this band for the next 40 years.
Yeah. And here you are now.
Yeah.
So I also want to talk about, just briefly, your parents and acceptance. Did they accept you guys playing this, what I would call foreign music, on the offbeat? How your parents reacted? Massive rejection.
I have a lot of musicians in my family, so I think it more had to do with not having a real job for me. Straight out of high school, I tried the college thing, and it didn't really work out for me so much because I was on the road playing shows, and I lived on my parents' couch for coming back from a tour, and I tried to keep an apartment. It was probably like $50 a month, but it smelled like cat pee, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time there. I tried to be out and about playing shows and getting in the mix, and but my parents they support me, and or as much as they can. They know I was gonna do what I wanted to do anyway, so I'm sure they're not really all that happy that I didn't stick with the school, but I didn't go to jail.
There you go. How about you, Woody?
That's good.
Kind of the same thing. I mean, my father was a musician, and so it was always accepted whatever I played, because I played in punk rock bands too, and rock bands and that kind of thing. So it was just the next band that I was in, and my mom was super diverse, always played Bob Marley from the time I was 3 years old, I can remember.
Wow.
So yeah, that was never an issue for me, but I think some of the other guys might have had more stuff. I know we rehearsed at Mano's house, and his parents were always super accepting and loved it.
Yeah, they were supportive, definitely. We would practice there, and they'd let us leave our gear set up in the living room, and
Wow.
that was cool too, because the
Of
drums would
course.
be there. So I'd try to mess around playing ska drums, playing along to like C Spot and Hepcat and stuff like that. But yeah, I think all of our folks had to be at least accepting, because we were 15, 16 years old, playing the whiskey in Hollywood and all that stuff, sometimes coming home 2 a.m. or whatever, we were lucky to have that support for sure at such a young age. Yeah.
Anybody want to add anything to that? Parents' acceptance and what kind of music?
Just they had a lot of trust in us. Kip was talking, I almost called you Hank. Kip was talking about his friend Bernie, who ended up, we used to always call Bernie the ska father, because he was like kind of a father to the band in our early days. And he was the first to buy like a Dodge, or maybe, I don't know, it was a Ford, 15 passenger van. And he would take us, all around California, and, on these weekender, adventures, and all our parents are always down with it. So a lot of trust in him, stranger who they didn't even know or, really meet, and then in us, as well. So yeah, we were really fortunate.
It's funny. I was back in the Midwest a couple weeks ago. My grandmother passed away, and so I was back there, seeing family, and it's been a while since I've seen a lot of people. But at the service, a couple people came up to me and they said, "You know what? I remember your grandmother telling me about you showing up with a whole bunch of people in a band in the middle of the farm." And, those stories, all those people know about, the Debonaires coming out to the farm. They saw that my grandma had, Debonaires pictures up in her house, and my grandma had a lot of people in her house. So, all these youth services she used to have. So all these kids would come over, and it's like, who are these guys? Like everybody's got mohawks and, like running around with bib overalls on the farm.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, even to this day, that was well over 10 years ago that we went out to the farm, and people still talk about that. So it's pretty funny. Yeah, that was a good feeling when I was back there. So
that was such a good memory from tour, was staying on the farm, and that was so foreign to so many of us who are just from suburban, Riverside, and throwing on overalls and, like you said, trudging through, corn stalks and whatnot. But yeah, even later on in our career, when we started touring, and I guess that was like with the mid 2000s, 2004, 2005. So much of our family supported us on the road, and we were able to stay with a lot of family and kind of recharge our batteries, like after, touring for a couple weeks straight, get a home cooked meal. So yeah, your grandmother, that was a really nice time of the trip.
Yeah, it was a cool stop. Yeah, it was awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So maybe we should talk a little bit about Jason. It's got to be lots of memory. Was he on tour with you guys to the Midwest and Northeast and elsewhere?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give kind of the background of how he came in. We kind of touched on it already, that him and Tony, our original singer, Tony Green, they were cousins. They were also both into skateboarding too. So Jason went to North and Tony went to Poly with us. So he would tell me about, my cousin. Yeah,
meaning high school.
Yeah, North High School. Yeah. He was like, yeah, my cousin, he's a dope skater. He's a bass player. He's you should meet him. So I remember in the early days going over to Tony lived in an apartment with his mom in downtown Riverside, and going down there and skating with Jason and hanging out and playing Scott Lights records and all that stuff. And Jason was always kind of he's a little bit stoic, I guess. Like he was really quiet, especially when I first met him too. But was just really good at everything that he did, you know. And it was just kind of I don't know, it was just I kind of gravitated towards, I respected him, you know. I admired the person that he was. So when he came on board in the band, it kind of like how we were talking about Tom kind of keeping the horns in line, like Jason, he'd have no problem critiquing the other guys in the band.
But he was a timekeeper.
Yeah.
The ones and the twos. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he loved the music. He really had a passion for it, and he respected its authenticity, and you know, he wanted us to kind of, you know, maintain that integrity through our music. You know, I think I mean, our early days, some of the stuff was pretty cheesy, poppy, you know what I mean? But I think by the time we got to our second album, we kind of had a more mature sound, and his songwriting, everything else came through in that. I think he kind of helped elevate us to the next level. And he also wasn't afraid to play other music. You know, he'd write reggae songs, or we'd experiment with some dub tracks or things like that. It wasn't just always just ska either. But
anybody else want to share memories of?
He was definitely the most prolific writer, I think, of all of us. It was hard to keep up with the amount of songs he would bring to the table. You know, he would be like, I got 5 songs, you know, kind of been working on. You're like, oh my gosh, like, all right, let's start rolling them out. And I always appreciated, he was always very receptive when other people came to the table. I think being the songwriter he was, you know, it's always a little bit, you always feel a little bit vulnerable showing other people your songs and, you know, part of your soul. And so I always felt comfortable, you know, showing him my stuff. And I think he was very good about, you know, having an open ear anytime someone was like, can we try this song? So as much as a ball buster as Jason could be, he was like the ultimate, you know, trash talker in the band. Like he always knew when to get serious, and you know, when when it was important.
Well, like when he would write songs, you know, different, you know, depends on who's writing the song, right? Sometimes people would come with an idea, maybe just a riff, maybe just lyrics, maybe even just a thought, but Jason would pretty much have kind of what he imagined the song would sound like, to where he would be like, Woody, you know, I was thinking the drums would go like this, and then maybe right here go to like that. And like what Mike said, though, he was also, you know, encouraged, like he would give an idea, but if you kind of worked with it, you know, he wasn't a stickler in that sense. But yeah, I mean, he would say, you know, Mano, here's what the guitar part, you know, and Ryan, and, you know, that kind of thing. And pretty much would have a whole complete song, and just the rehearsal would be him kind of translating that to us, and then us interpreting that and putting it out the way we all, you know, add to our own bit of it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like Mike said, he would come with 3, 4, 5 songs sometimes, and be reggae, it would be skinhead reggae, a ska song, and even a rocksteady,
Manuals, vocals, yeah.
Soul. Oh, I wrote this soul song out of nowhere, you know.
Yeah.
So
Quite a talent.
yeah, for sure.
So how is the band going to preserve his legacy, his memory for posterity?
Yeah, that actually, what to kind of build on what Woody was saying about him bringing songs and stuff. So I mean, we've been together so long, and in order to do that, you know, sometimes it can be a long time that we're not getting together. Sometimes we regain focus, or if we have a goal, you know, that we're trying to accomplish, then things start to work more cohesively. So after we had gone to Europe in 2018, which, like I'm saying, we have to rehearse to go there, play shows to raise funds. By the time we came back, we started just rehearsing and focusing on music. And Jason again was bringing all these songs. So everybody was bringing different song ideas, and we were just focused on that. We weren't as interested in playing live shows, and that's right when the pandemic hit and everything. And so then that had to kind of be on pause. And at the same time, Jason was already dealing with cancer. He's a very private person, and a lot of people knew what he was going through, but a lot of people didn't, especially people in the scene who may not have known him on a day-to-day basis and stuff. So we have these songs that he's written, and I think we all want to record those and put them out, so that we can still share his music with everybody. His wife even sent us lyrics to a song that he wrote more recently, when he wasn't doing so well, and he never sang a melody for us or anything like that. It's literally just words on paper, and trying to interpret something like that, maybe how we think he would maybe want it to sound or something. So I think that's the immediate goal, is definitely to just get his music out there that hasn't been recorded and released yet.
Mm-hmm. If I can misquote James Baldwin, he once said that everyone that diminishes him, but boy, this one really devastated the whole reggae and ska rocksteady community here in Southern California. He's passing at such a young age. You can tell from the response, people turn out in droves to pay homage to him.
Yeah.
There is, but
definitely when we did that show, it was definitely like a big reunion. A lot of people, like you said, people we hadn't seen in years and years, and everybody said, yeah, we wanted to make sure we were here and support the cause and all that stuff. And I think a lot of us were actually even taken back by it a little bit. I know I was like, wow, he has had quite the impact, and it kind of makes you even step back and reflect. And I was really close with him, and so kind of that closeness, you don't always see what other people see. And I tried to take a step back and go, wow, man, like, yeah, this guy's is actually a fucking powerhouse, like, Jesus. and I feel like maybe I didn't even realize it at the time. You just get used to somebody being delivering the goods on that level, so you don't think about it. But if you take a second, it's like, damn, yeah, he wrote a whole bunch of our stuff, so and had a big impact, whether it's even, hey, I didn't write the song, but we should maybe do this or that, so it was awesome.
Yeah, and it also meant a lot to us to have Jesse Wagner and Chris Murray and them to come out and perform. That was just, it kind of shows the love that we have as a community and ska scene. So it means a lot to us. We're very thankful for that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, and Cheekies, we all know Cheekies, Hepcat, and all that good stuff, expanders and everything. Yeah, he was just like, man, I played for so many different bands and different, subbed for musicians here and there. Said Jason keeps me on my toes when I'm trying to, play songs with you guys. So
that was one of the most memorable moments from rehearsing for that show. Was just Cheeky's complimenting Jason's line over.
He kept saying
the intensity of his music.
I remember him saying that even on stage. So this is genuine. This is genuine.
He was also a very versatile musician, and he had a really eclectic taste in music. So he played in other bands also, you know, rock and roll bands. He toured with Roddy Radiation and the Ska-Billy Rebels, and you know, our friends the Electric Howlers, and he even played as kind of like a hired gun, you know, with Woody in groups that play, you know, regular gigs throughout the Inland Empire and stuff like that. So he was always playing. So even if Debs were on a little break or whatever, he was still playing music. So when we had that event for him and seeing all these different people from all these different backgrounds and how much he's influenced them, and brought them all together, it was really beautiful.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Debonaires, taking you back to the beginning. When you guys first got introduced to the Los Angeles ska scene, were you guys accepted or rejected? What was it like then? Coming from IE?
Anybody want to?
We're talking about memory juggling. Let's do some memory juggling here.
I would say so. Yeah, you know, we're coming from Riverside, so it's kind of an outsider. You know, we're still Southern California. There's other bands from Riverside, like Kip mentioned, like you know, Voodoo Glow Skulls and Skeletones and stuff like that. But I don't even remember how I met Luis, but we got in contact somehow, you know. And as I said, in '95, it was getting right into the height of the steady beat scene, you know, sort of 95 through 98. But we were not there in the years prior to shows he was doing at like Hong Kong Cafe and places like that. So we were also so young, so we were always the opening band, you know what I mean? And you know, the pay would be little to none, and we'd you know, drive out to LA to play you know, a 30-minute set, and but it was like a dream come true for us, because at that time we loved all those bands, we loved the scene. And I think as years went by, and we kind of gained the respect of, you know, the other bands, and then ended up becoming great friends, and it's a family, you know, the LA ska scene, and they're very accepting of their Riverside brothers now, you know. I think maybe in the early days it was, you know, maybe not as accepted, and especially with the whole skinhead scene too, like it had kind of the Riverside skins and all that versus the LA ones and stuff. So we got kind of sucked into that too a little bit. But having some members that were part of that.
Clarify, what do you mean sucked in?
Well, we had, you know, Jason was a skinhead, Tony and Dave also, and that's a whole other scene. It's a, you know, a scene within the ska scene, you know. So if there's any drama going on with that, and they're in the band and they're in all that stuff, it, you know, it comes back on us a little bit too.
Yes, it's and was somebody going to add something? So many of you guys, so wonderful. We're really experimenting. We never had so many people on. I'll be switching over to my producer momentarily. But I want to ask though, really and truly, in a very serious and profoundly serious way, what was it like sharing the stage with some of the top shelf artists like the Scatterlights? There's a long list of artists, you know, from the foundation that you've shared the stage with. The list is so long, I was trying to memorize them. I knew it wouldn't work, so I'm going to ask you guys to tell us about some of the people you've shared the stage with. It's more legends now.
I would have to say any show that I ever played opening up for the Scatterlights. I mean, with however many members were around at the time, but my first show with the opening up for the Scatterlights was at the Whiskey A Go Go and then Lloyd Breverett was there, Tommy McCook, Roland Alfonso. It was. I mean, Lloyd Niz was. Everybody was there, and it was. And I jumped off stage and started doing some stupid thing out on the floor. But I mean, I was young. I was so excited, and I don't know. And all these people are looking at me like, "What an idiot!" I don't know. But it was a huge show. We opened it up.
Yes.
It was Let's Go Bowling. Hepcat played, and Skylights played, and I don't know why we opened, but we did. I think maybe Lucky Seven played it too. I can't remember, or maybe it was Scandal or some. There was another band that played that, and but meeting all those guys for the first time, that was just amazing to me. I think.
So apart from Roberto, who is a relatively new member, I think all of your work at the Legends, one point or another, right?
Yeah. Me and Mike also played in the LA All-Star Review, where we backed up some legends. I think one of the earlier ones that we did was we played with Justin Hines in Pasadena at the lot. That was a really memorable one when we were in high school too. I mean, and of course the Scotalites, we had some good times with them, taking shots with Dorian Schaefer, and it's sort of a trip because every one of them has their own personality.
Oh, yeah.
So you never know, like is he cool or is he, so but it for one thing definitely helps elevate our level of musicianship, I would say, because especially if you're backing somebody, you want it to sound as authentic to the original songs as possible. And LA has always been known for that worldwide, for especially having that sound. But that was, I mean, it's just been a dream come true. I mean, even the some of these records in the back I've gotten signed, like we played with Laurel Aitken at the Barn in '97. Phyllis Dillon, did we play the Phyllis Dillon show?
Phyllis Dillon at the Whiskey, that was one that I was pretty like, whoa.
Yeah.
Desmond Decker in Chicago.
Yeah, we played with Desmond Decker.
That was great.
Desmond Decker, that was a good one.
Yeah, thanks to Chuck Wren, he hooked that one up. No, it's amazing, and thanks to people like you, Junior, and Eric, bringing them out. And I mean, it's been truly a dream come true. I mean, it's not every music scene that's around today, or people are able to do that, with the originators of that sound. I mean, that's been one of the true blessings in the Southern California ska scene, for sure.
So you guys were extremely fortunate because you played with Justin Hines, so that was way early in your career.
Yeah.
Queen P, her band.
Yeah, Ocean 11.
Yes.
Ocean 11. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was early in your career.
Even that, I was super excited to meet her and Ocean 11, because they had been in a hiatus when we first started playing. And I had that CD. I let everybody borrow it. I still have it, and it just blew me away. The way they made their recordings sound old, or it's some of them you can barely differentiate between the originals or not. So even though they're a contemporary, or at the time, contemporary LA band, I was super excited to even meet them, or the guys from Hepcat and C-Spot and everything. I was still idolizing those guys too.
Absolutely, yeah. I still can't believe that's Alex Diaz singing "Let's Start Again" on that Ocean 11 album.
Yeah, and we would nerd out on stuff like that. Me and Mike and all that. I mean, that's kind of a fun thing about the scene, and all these projects that people do even now, like stuff like we love, like, Dynamic Pressure, the Sand Dollars, and
Bobtown.
Yeah, Mobtown, big influence also, Wally and everybody. Yeah, it's crazy now.
Oh yeah.
But they're all just like our friends, our brothers and stuff. You know, we all grew up
So
together.
today, three full-length albums to the credit of the Debonaires and multiple singles.
We have
Four full lengths if
full
you want to
length.
count the first album we did with Tony Green when we were still in high school.
Well, of course, we have to.
yeah. 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 It's the older we get, the longer it takes for us to release stuff. But as I mentioned about trying to record new stuff, I think we're interested in trying to release more singles versus doing a whole album, just to get it out there sooner.
Right. Well, I think I had to introduce my good friend and producer, Eric Kohler.
Gentlemen,
Been waiting anxiously to join the
Junior,
conversation.
thank you. Guys, first, I just want to say how much, I'm sorry for the loss of Jason and, your good friend and bandmate. So my condolences. I had some interaction with him over the years, like you all, and nothing but positive things to say, and definitely want to ask you a few questions about Jason here in a minute. But I do want to touch on a couple things that and I think one of the last things you talked about was the scene. And Kip, since you were on the scene earlier than your other bandmates here, how did the I'm old too, just like you. How did the scene evolve? You mentioned a few bands like Orange Street, Lucky Seven, The Scandals, which those bands were around, maybe more so in the late 80s, early 90s, right? Not so much in the mid 90s onward. But
Yeah.
How did the scene evolve and change? Like, what are the main differences between the scene from your standpoint, from when you got into it to maybe then when you joined the Debonaires?
I think what happened was, the MTV generation started to change things. Most of the reggae music that you would hear would be on, KSPC or, some, college radio. That's usually where you would hear, the kind of music you'd want to, whether it be late night punk rock or late night ska show or reggae show or something like that. Most people that were into the scene were hanging out, listening to those radio shows. When you talk to Tito Ted, he talks about that era and how the scene sort of grew up. And I think with MTV getting on board with some more alternative type music, throwing some Bob Marley videos in there, some live concert footage and stuff like that. I think people started to get interested, and California's such a melting pot, and it's this huge music scene, all different types, and a lot of crossover here, more so here than you would see anywhere else. So you start seeing bands that are like Fishbone, who are are good friends with other types of bands, and they start to influence each other. I mean, I'm sure Fishbone's influenced a countless amount of bands over the years, and a lot of bands are really popular probably because of that said band.
Sure.
And I think in the 90s what happened is people really started I think the labels might have found some kind of pop, something that they could jump on and make a quick buck, and it just got so big so quick, and it sort of it kept the traditional sound. It brought in a lot of people, but it was such a tight-knit community back in the early days, was a lot smaller scene. And I mean, even the big shows they weren't super, super big, but, as got into the 90s, I mean, these guys were playing like really, really big shows. I mean,
Yeah.
Selector played the when the Selector played Riverside, it was, I mean, it was like a huge convention center, you know, and so I mean, when those bigger bands, and then, you know, later on when Madness came out, I guess that was probably post 2000, but it was actually a huge scene. You know?
Yeah, that's actually a great point. I mean, when a lot of artists play Southern California, right? I mean, because of radius clauses, you know, they can play LA, and oftentimes they can play out there in Riverside. So you all were pretty fortunate to be able to see, whether it was the barn or Showcase, right, and some of those other venues out there, really able to see the two-tone bands and some of the legends, right, that would pass through town.
Yeah, and then we got to open for them too.
Right. Yeah. Perfect opportunity.
I remember Jimmy Cliff coming to Riverside at the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
It was unbelievable. I mean, it was surreal, and it wasn't a huge turnout because it was Riverside, and you know, slightly outside of his market, and it was just amazing to be able to stand right in front of the stage. And
well, that's how this last show was with Toots. When Toots was out here, he played Riverside at the Fox Theater, and you know, I mean, I thought it would just be sold out, but you know, I mean, it's just a sort of slow market, and you'd think that Toots, you know, with you know, all his Nelson friends, and you know, I mean, he's huge, you know. So I'm just surprised that, you know, it still has a long way to go to become like really a popular type of music, you know. And it'll get there one day.
Yes. Let's go back and talk about LA All-Star Review. Persephone, Queen P, who we all know, you know, loves and consider you all family. How did that come together, the LA All-Star Review, and a couple of those concerts that you talked about? Here's one of them, right? LA All-Star Review, I think might be down there, right?
Yeah,
that was incredible. The other one here, other Legends show, right?
Yeah.
But how did that come together?
Jason played in the All-Star Review also. I don't remember. I know, Queen P was pretty much the one that put it together. She's kind of been like I don't know, like kind of a band mom or something, like for it. Like she always, like, especially when we first met, like I remember really the first time hanging out with her, like, was at that Justin Hines show. And she was just like, you guys are so young, you're so young, you know, like, but she always like had a certain level of respect for us and a lot of love for us as a band and as people and stuff like that. And her asking us to play, I think that also kind of bridged a gap in a way between Riverside and the LA scene, because we had, like, you know, that definitely made us feel accepted, of course, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being able to play with musicians like that also, because as I said, when we started, we all were kind of also learning our instruments at the time too. Not all of us are like, you know, have had professional, you know, training on how to play. So when you get put in a situation like that with professionals, you know, to at least to us, like, you have to kind of hold your own, you know. So I think also that was kind of post Blue Beat Lounge.
Yes, correct.
You know, so that was kind of the next phase of the LA scene.
Right.
You know, when the steady beat stuff kind of died out.
Yep.
And then the Blue Beat stuff came around. That was when a lot of us were off at college and all that kind of stuff. And then when we were finished with school was when we started touring and everything. So by the time these shows started coming around, I was around 2008, 2007, I believe.
Yeah, probably between 2005 and 2008, 2009.
Yeah. So I feel like those shows also brought out a lot of people who were in the scene back in the mid and late 90s.
Mhm.
You know, oh wow, these legends are playing too. You know,
Right.
but going back to the LA All-Star Review, we actually recorded like 13 songs or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've never heard them.
Who was the producer?
We recorded it with Ray Danger from Ocean 11.
Yeah.
You mean the Debonaires, the entire band?
No, the LA All-Star Review.
Oh,
And,
Yeah.
Original or covers?
No, they were covers.
covers.
We had one original, I think, what the Fire song that the Expanders guys wrote.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I actually have somewhere.
Yeah, we have a recording of that. It sounds great.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Chris Murray had done Heaven originally with them too. But you know, we had all the people, like, you know, it's a review, so you have people from different bands singing a couple songs. But I remember, I think, yeah, we had the ones with Chuck from C Spot singing, and I think Malik.
Yeah.
And the Expanders one, and yeah, Queen P. It's been so long, I don't remember all the songs that we did, but I would love to hear those recordings.
Yeah, we all would. Right.
Yeah.
I think didn't Bill Purdy play keys on some?
Yeah.
He did. Bill was on there. Narvis was on drums, which, I mean, you know, just getting to play with him was such an honor, and so much pressure, which you're like, oh my gosh, he's like, you know, we're like, oh, this greatest drummer in the scene. And, but he's such a cool, down to earth dude. He, you know, he definitely, the pressure went away after a while. You're like, all right, yeah, he's cool.
Yeah.
No, 100%. How was Jason playing with the legends? Any stories from rehearsals or from the shows? Anything that's memorable?
I mean, I always remember driving down like in the van to rehearsal. Like we, you know, Debs used to have a big old 15-passenger van, and we come out to LA for these rehearsals. And I remember whoever wasn't driving, you know, that we wanted to make sure that we killed it and did our part. So we would have our instruments out in the van, like with our ear pods in, or playing it and like trying to play along. And me and Jason would be like, all right, let's do that part over again. Let's do that part over again. So I have vivid memories of that. I'm just prepping for those sessions.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Let's talk about the Revivers. So because the band Revivers share a few, right, with you all.
Yeah, me, Mike, and Tom plays organ, and then Tony, the Debonaires original singer, sings. Brent, the drummer, he's another Riverside local who he's a few years younger than us, so he kind of grew up seeing Debonaires play and everything too. He's always been a big fan and a really cool, you know, friend. So it's been great to play with him too. But yeah, we just I don't know. I think some of us have always just liked skinhead reggae, you know, and Debonaires, we've had a couple of songs, like, you know, but definitely not known as like for our skinhead reggae. And just wanted to do something fun. I don't remember exactly how that, I think Tony might have gotten back in touch with us, because after the early years, like, we didn't hear from him for a while, you know. And then when he kind of came back around, and then he wanted to do that, and we're like, okay, we're just gonna play covers of old songs, and that sounds super fun, you know.
Yeah,
it was a little less common, I think, to, like, there's been a lot of other bands who have done it, but I don't know about just a skinhead reggae tribute band,
right,
so to speak, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just playing that different style. It has a whole other groove to it, you know. And yeah, Tom transitioning from trombone to keys
Oh, okay.
That was awesome too.
Yeah.
And I lived with Tom, during those years. I lived with Tom for 4 years or so. And those were the years when he was learning to play keys. And I mean, once Tom gets fixated on something, once he sets his mind to it, I mean, he almost burned the house down, I remember, because he put on he was boiling water for tea or something, and then went out and turned that organ on. And he didn't come back for a couple hours back into the house. And I came out and all that water was gone. That pot was just smoking red. But yeah, I mean, he would live out in the garage and practice for literally, 8 hours straight or so on the organ. Picked it up pretty quick.
I remember Junior telling me that Tom is starting to play organ. And I said, what? I mean, he's an incredible trombonist, and he said you should hear him play organ. I thought maybe he learned in the army or somewhere. I didn't know he did just walk. I mean, talk about just born talent. And I will say this about the Revivers. You all saved. So this Haiti Relief concert.
Oh yeah.
For our viewers and listeners and you guys who may not know, so Junior and I and our friend Sean Heikemper, we helped put this together along with Operation USA after the big Haiti earthquake, and originally Joey Altruda was supposed to put together a backing band to back. I have to look up here. Pipe and Bread from the Wailing Souls, Ross Michael, Angela Norwood, Elon, LJ, and Ja Faith. So it was kind of like a couple songs by each of those artists. Joey, I think it was when he had already moved down to South America, I think, for a little while. And I don't think he was able to come back in time. So literally, I think with maybe a week's notice, Mano, does that sound about right?
Yeah, probably around there. Yeah.
I think I might have asked Persephone, I'm not sure what we do. And she said, call Mano. So, but you guys pulled it together and kicked butt and just killed it. And anyways, very thankful for that amazing night. That was fun, and for obviously an amazing cause. But just in case I hadn't thanked you before, I want to thank you.
It's all good. I've had to talk these guys into doing many a gig that they maybe didn't want to.
I'm sure.
But I mean, those are the years where we had the momentum going for doing projects like that, and when it was just such an honor to do those gigs. And I remember, isn't that when we backed up Norwood and Angela did Oil My Lamp for the first time?
Yeah. Yes.
Which ended up, doing it again on Debonaires.
We ended up recording it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And what was that recording session like with Angela?
Oh my gosh. It was eye-opening to what genius looks like. That guy, I mean, he's Tom, but on a different level. He can just orchestrate in his head. And so he came in there taking, what was a fairly simple, straightforward song, by Lonnie Morris, and then he wrote, what did he write? 2 verses for it?
2 verses on the
spot. Yeah.
That song has been a staple on all my playlists.
Yeah.
And he would just give me another track. Let me get another track. And he would write these layers of harmonies in his head.
Yeah. It was really,
all in my lamp.
It's a master.
Yeah. And he's walking around the garage barefoot, drinking whiskey, and
couldn't tell on the recording.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Interesting enough, I even played it for Monty Mars. You say, hey, not bad, man. He doesn't. Yeah, man. Monty doesn't compliment anyone.
That's cool.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Wicked song. So encouraging people to listen to, if nothing else, All in My Lamp.
Very much so. On as far as Jason's musical influences, do you know what bass players he might have, whether it's from the scene or legends that he might have really loved and looked up to? And
That's a good question.
You really like Tool.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like
I'm a
Tool.
huge Tool fan.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, Jason and I used to kind of bond over that, like a little bit of a rock background.
Okay. Yeah.
Tool definitely, Primus.
Yeah, Primus.
And he liked the heavy. The heavy.
Yeah, Mars
Yeah.
Volta, Queens of the Stone Age. But but of course all the classic stuff too. I mean, he was super well versed on that, you know.
Yeah.
Skylights.
He liked a lot of classic rock. You know?
What's the name of that band? That's when it started getting questionable. The new Soundgarden band. What's them?
Audio Slave.
Yeah, Audio Slave.
Yeah.
We love Audio Slave. We're like, come on, man. Because in the van, when we're driving, when we're on tour and stuff like that, whoever's like, you know, playing their music up front, you know, we're like, faded to the front.
Yeah, we had a near intervention at one point.
Oh yeah,
when he was on his major Audio Slave kick, because he bought a wah-wah pedal.
Yeah,
he started bringing his wah pedal to practice and hooking up to his bass. Like,
yeah,
what are you doing? Like
playing this trippy.
We were like, you know, play around at home and stuff.
We're
But
like, man, bring it back.
And it became like a regular thing. We're like, all right, we're gonna have to like talk to him about this.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Hide it.
And then I think he just sensed it, and like literally, like had he brought it to another practice, it would have been like, all right, we need to sit him down. But he didn't bring it.
Yeah.
That was the end of the wah-wah pedal.
That is funny.
But he even had kind of spiky hair at that time, and shortly before he passed away, a couple of us went over and we were going through old Debonaires photos, and he had this look, and he's like, oh yeah, he's like, that's when I was on a big like Audio Slave, like Soundgarden, Chris Cornell kick. And we're like, oh, the hair and the wah-wah pedal, that was all part of the same phase.
I love that.
Awesome.
That's a great story. What are a couple things that might surprise people about Jason? Maybe just what you said. That's probably one of them. But is there anything else that that maybe would surprise, whether it's just people from the scene or any fans?
Well, I got three things. One, Jason was a staunch Miami Dolphins fan.
Oh yeah.
Believe it. I have no idea why. I used to give him a hard time about it. Go Rams. and yeah, wicked jump shot. He's a really good basketball player. I actually had a really good time playing basketball with him. We played on a lot of courts, and we had some really good battles. And can't remember what the third thing was. Shoot. We have to come back to that one. Yeah. But yeah, between you know, he's got a son. So his son's about 15 years old, and we used to sit down and talk about our kids. You know, we'd go out to the bar and just sort of sit down and talk about, you know, how it is to have kids, you know, and yeah, we had some really good discussions about upbringing and how do you bring them up and how do you discipline? Do you slap your kid around? No, I don't slap my kid around. You slap your kid around? You know, how do you get them to do this? And I was like, you know, I don't know. I just, you know, you sort of just let them do what they want to do. You know, my kids, my oldest he's 11 years old. So, you know, I mean, so we got to have some pretty good discussions about kids and what it's like to be a dad. And, you know, we really didn't get to see our kids that much, or as much as we really wanted to. And we got to spend a lot of time talking about that. And, I know it was something that really bugged him, you know, and but it was good to know that he really did care for his son. So
yeah,
nice.
So wonder if Roberto has had any
yes
stories.
Oh my goodness, it wasn't mentioned prior, but him and I we hit it off when it came to jazz. There was a huge almost kicked my ass. I had gone a couple years ago at the Hollywood Bowl to see a Jocko.
Oh,
A
Jaco
night.
Pastorius.
Jocko Pastorius.
That's another one.
And I posted a photo, and maybe not even, and we share his birthday is in August as well. I had gone for my birthday. And almost immediately as I posted the picture, he's like, "You didn't invite me? You're an asshole." Just like that. Well, you're an asshole. And I'm like,
He took it personally.
But aside from that, he's the reason that every time I step into a restaurant, a bar, whatever it may be, I always order an old fashioned.
Mhm.
That was his go-to. And to this day, I mean, anytime I'm getting old fashioned. Why are you always ordering old fashions, man? Well, back in the day, man, maybe about 7, 8 years ago, God, I couldn't stop ordering shots, right? I'd always ordering shots.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was funny, always giving everybody all the band shots, especially Mike. But and then Jason comes up and he's all like, "Why are you always doing tequila shots? Do whiskey." And I'm like, "I don't really drink whiskey." "Oh, so you've never had an old fashioned?" What the hell is that? We were at the bar, got me an old fashioned. I've been ordering them since. So
Wow. Well, I drink them on occasion, so I will now absolutely think of Jason. That's good to know. Wow.
Yeah. He liked Belgian beers too, German beers. So when we went on tour out there in Europe, that was fun. Trying out all the different drinks out there too.
Yeah, so sort of what Kip, sort of bouncing off what Kip was saying. Dude had a big heart, man. Going to tour. That was my first time out of the States, going anywhere that distance. And being able to share that stage with Jason. Jesus, there was Uten, Hermberg. I know it started with the U, but we took this huge backcountry road. It was a one-way road to just the stadium, right? Or just this huge thing. And afterwards, I mean, Kip's doing this thing, Mano's doing this thing, Mike's not there. And, we're just both of us sitting together and just watching everything. Everyone's doing their own
Just
thing.
taking it all in.
Jason and I, he's just like, "Dude, what do you think?" And I'm like, "This is freaking amazing. I'd never in my life thought I'd ever do anything of this caliber." And he's like, "Yeah, it's all right."
Had Jason already been to Europe? Had he toured or been to Europe?
No, none of us had.
Because of his illness, right?
No, he went with us to Europe, but he had never been there before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, how extensive is that? The tour poster behind you, Mano?
Yeah, we went for 2 weeks. There were 2, 4, 6. There's 12 shows, and we backed up Susan Cadogan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was really cool. So that was, having the experience from backing up other legends before and stuff.
Sure.
That was kind of one of the only ways it was going to make sense for us financially and whatnot to only go for 2 weeks, because usually people do at least 3, and it's costly sending 8 people out there and everything else. But yeah, that was cool. She loved Jason.
Oh yeah, she loved him.
Yeah, she was so cool to work with. She was the coolest to work with. She just had such a young energy, spunky. She's a cool diva, and she treated us like family, and she would always do what song was it? She would do a medley with I'm Still in Love and Uptown Top Ranking.
Oh,
and
nice.
she do
Hurts So Good, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
yeah, she did a breakdown, with the bass, and she do a little dance with Jason and give him a hug and all that on stage. Yeah, it was good times. I'm glad we got to experience that. But
Was Ryan on tour too?
Yeah, Ryan went.
Mhm.
Yeah, we actually Woody was not playing with us at the time. He took a break for a while, and he came on board to do the fundraiser for Jason recently. We had Fritz from Steady 45s with us.
Okay. Yeah.
That was another thing too, like that, Jason trying to get, the pocket dialed in, and, playing with the new drummer and everything, like, they work with each other trying to get that groove going. It's drums and bass are the foundation of Jamaican music, so you have to have that strong, that connection between them. So they were able to vibe on that. And same thing too, like when Cheeky's, when we did the fundraiser, Jason, he hadn't passed away. He wasn't doing well, he wasn't able to attend it. Cheeky's filled in on bass, and he's just like one of us,
Yeah.
he's filled in before, and he loves Riverside and everything too. And when we were rehearsing for that, it was kind of like very much kind of felt like he was channeling Jason's energy, also trying to get in the groove with Woody on the drums, and just kind of being very kind of firm about like how we should be playing these things or approaching them, and just the discipline and everything. So yeah, I got to give him props too. And I'm sure Jason loves Cheeky's also. And
yeah, no, I know how special that was for Cheeky's. And I was unfortunately on vacation with the family, so I couldn't make it, but I got some great reports from Junior and a few other friends. So
With that, there's one thing trying just to play the music, right? But it's another trying to understand it, right? So the way Cheeky's was practicing, he was trying to, all right, well, what's Jason trying to do here? My goodness, he's trying to figure it out, trying to get that Jason vibe, trying to make it, full, right? You got to be in that pocket. You got to be able to play it the way Jason's playing it. And that, kudos to him, man. Cheeky's, I can't imagine anyone else doing it as well as he did.
Yeah.
Cheeky's also sang one of Jason's songs that night, "Music of My Soul," which I think was really special for everyone. That was a lot of pressure to put on him to ask him to do that, but Jason sang that song almost every show he played the last couple of years, so that was cool.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, or like, because he started singing on songs kind of later in the game. We had been together for a long time, and then he's like, I'll just sing this one, that he wrote. Or Kip would encourage him to sing the songs that he wrote too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we're like, oh, you can sing too, like this is you should have done this before.
He's not from Kingston, right? They don't hesitate to put the voice on record. Way out to the ghetto. Way to suffering and tribulation.
And that was cool too with Revivers too, because he was originally in it also, and then we ended up getting Mark from the Skeletones on bass, and Jason came back just to sing backups.
Wow.
With Tony. So to have these cousins that have grown up together singing the music that they love, that's a great thing too, and it's cool for Jason to be able to just sing and not have to play the bass and sing also. So that was really special.
Yeah.
Being able to do that also.
Absolutely. As we're reaching our destination, I know that we've talked about a number of highlights, from your careers, from working with legends to European tour that you just referenced. But what are some other on the happier side of things, other highlights and most memorable experiences with the Debonaires?
I like Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
That's definitely worth talking about.
Getting into Canada and not getting into Canada. Both
We
were
were also
fun.
banned from Canada for a while.
Yeah, we
Getting banned.
Oh, you guys had ganja.
No.
That was the first tour of mine going to Canada, having no idea that some of them couldn't get through the border.
Yeah.
Why can't you
Hey,
guys
why?
Yeah, share the story.
What's
America?
going on here?
So, well, first, props to Dane from
Yeah.
Victoria Ska
Oh, yeah.
Festival, Ska Society, BC Ska Society. He's been a long time Debonair fan, and he brought us up there first in 2007, and he's a really cool guy. Like, it was funny, I was living in San Francisco at the time, and we were talking on the phone, and he has that thick Canadian accent, like and I had no idea who this guy was or anything, and then when we got up there, and he's got dreads,
Right.
and I was like, oh, this is the person with this voice, this Canadian accent, like, but super cool guy. But he brought us up there. So it was the first tour that we got banned, or was it the second one?
No, it's second.
It
second
was
one.
the second one.
Okay.
That
So
was the war child benefits.
yeah, so they're very strict at the border. You're supposed to have like a letter of invitation, all that kind of stuff, and they asked us where we were playing when we're trying to come in, and I told them we're playing the Victoria Ska Festival, and they separated me from the other guys in the band.
They wanted to see if everyone was going to say the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And we had other shows booked, but the letter of invitation was for that. So I think we had it was quite a few. It was maybe like 6 shows or something like that. And I'm the one who does the booking and stuff. So I was just telling them about the Ska Fest, and the other guys were just kind of like, oh, we don't know what's going on, and we're stuck at the border. We're there for 3 hours, and so they start, horsing around and all this, and so they had gone on our website and saw the other shows, and they're like, "Why didn't you tell us about these?"
Withholding government information.
Yeah, so they just called us up, and they already had the paperwork for us to sign that we're banned for a year.
What?
And we're supposed to be playing the festival the next day or 2 days later, something like that. So we tried to go in through a different border the next day, and we're like, maybe they don't have it in their system yet or whatever. So we're parked outside of the office at the border. I went in, and the other guys are sitting in the van, and then they see the cop from the other border come walking in to the office after I went in there. They're like, oh no. So that guy ended up being pretty cool. And he ended up trying to help us get in, but it didn't work. And then we even tried to go to the American consulate in Seattle, and we couldn't play, so we had to cancel. We had to.
Wow. So that all that run got canceled.
Yeah, we had to drive 25 hours back to Riverside, and we also had Bay Area shows and stuff. We had shows touring down on the way home too. We had to cancel because we would have had to sit around for 2 weeks or a week or whatever.
We also had to take 2 bass players up there one time.
Yeah. So then
we weren't sure which one was going to walk.
Yeah, the next time we went, yeah, we said,
that was good.
Yeah, so we brought Cheekies. We flew Cheekies up to Seattle. He met us there, and he was going to be our backup because me, Tom, and Jason had all had DUIs.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have been able to go in and play if if they asked us at the border.
Right.
And Kip had a clean record, so we rented a car. We called it the felony car, and then he drove us in there, and the other guys came in the van, and we thought we're being, slick, and then they're like, okay, there's all these guys from Riverside, like.
Well, not only that, we
Yeah,
had two cars that ended up getting, pulled over, at the border, and they both had a Tomazin in the car. So we had Ryan, I think, in the van, and then the rental car next to him was Ryan's brother, Chad Tomazin.
I see. Yeah,
that was a little suspicious, also.
Yeah,
that was.
So we had brought Cheekies as a backup in case Jason couldn't get in. We already had this plan where, like, the three of us couldn't get in, they'd have to just pull together this set with Cheekies and without me and Tom. But when they went through the stuff, also I should say we took a ferry, so we were technically like in Canada at this point. We weren't at the border, so turning us away would have been a whole other thing. But Cheekies ended up having something on his record that I don't know if he didn't know about it or what, but he ended up not getting in.
Oh, no.
And we all got in. So he had flown up to Seattle the night before, and then had to fly back to LA the next day.
Yeah. What
yeah.
experiences? Yeah, I heard many horror stories of artists trying to get,
But once you get in there, I mean, it's a great festival day. Everybody's super cool. The fans really appreciate it, and he's always shown us a lot of love.
For sure.
I don't know,
a lot of positive feedback about that festival and how he conducts himself. So that's great news.
Yeah,
wonderful to hear. Well,
so for my own personal information, if I get a DUI, is that what I said? DUI, I can go to Canada.
Not unless you're well, let me put it like this. I have to go up to Canada sometimes for work, and when I get to customs, it usually takes me about 2 hours to get through. And I asked the inspector when I was up there last time, I said, why do you guys always keep me here at, and he's like, oh, you have a red mark on your, on your profile. I mean, every time you come through, we're gonna pull you out and give you what for. Wow. And I said, what's that all about? He's like, well, what did you do back there? You have a red mark on your. And I said, well, it's something that happened a long, long time ago. And he's like, oh, well, it's the gift that keeps on giving. He's like, oh, that's just how it is. You're gonna have to deal with it for the rest of your life. So I even told my boss, I said, hey, if you want to send me to Canada, just remember, I may be sitting in there at the border for a while.
Yeah.
And so, so I mean, it happens every time now, unless I drive through. Drive through, no problem. Fly in, problem.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Good. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, any other final thoughts or memories or anything you'd like to say and let the world know about Jason?
Well, one thing, he gave me his record collection to sell, which initially when we were doing the fundraiser in November, that was the plan, was to try to sell it to raise funds. We're gonna have a private memorial with just us soon, and I'm offering that up to his closest friends and family to own a part of his collection, to have after, that first round of people, I'm going to be offering it up to people. So listeners like this, people in our extended ska family and stuff, hit us up if you'd be interested in that. And another thing, all the things that we've talked about and everything, if anybody wants to kind of get to know him better and the band and whatnot, I'd encourage people to go and listen to the songs that he's written, and just kind of you get a much better idea of his personality and the person he was, and the messages he was trying to give out to people.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that would be pretty amazing. I'm going to do the same, actually. That's great advice. Well, Ryan, Woody, Mike, Kip, Mano, and Roberto. Roberto, great to meet you. I've seen you on stage, but we haven't met.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
No, we're happy to.
So one last question.
Yes,
What is the band doing now? Any new recordings, any shows planned? That's a question Bob Marley usually asks.
That's what we want to get to, the recordings. So when we get together for our little private memorial, we'll talk about it more. The songs, that I said pre-pandemic, we've done really rough recordings just at practices and stuff like that. So we have references of the songs that, he did. One of them we played on our live, the Thanksgiving Eve video that we put out last year in what was that, 2021?
Yeah.
Or no, 2020. Yeah, 2020.
2020, yeah.
The song Blue Sunday on that, an instrumental, he wrote that also. But yeah, no, that's the plan for now. I think I
so is the band gonna go to the pasture, or is gonna continue making music and touring?
I think once we record and release these things, that's kind of like the first step for now, and then we'll see after that. That's kind of the only way we've been able to stay together, 27 years, is being able to kind of take it one step at a time.
Well, Debonaires is consistently delivers on stage and on record, and I have to say, you guys are really some of the nicest and some of the most grounded on the scene. So from way back to those steady beat days when I first saw you guys. So yeah, thank you for always being so cool too. So
put Riverside on the reggae map.
That's true.
That's in the band that did it.
There we go.
Put Riverside on the map.
There we go. Well, yeah. Thank you all, and stay healthy and safe. And Junior, thank you for
yes, indeed,
for all that you do here as well.
Right. Well, Debonaires, to our viewers and followers, please follow us at History of LA Ska on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our Facebook group. Please follow me at Junor Francis. This series is produced by my good friend here, Eric Kohler, for Rockery Radio. Please follow at Rockery_radio on Instagram for fresh rock, rhythm, soul, and Jamaican music inspired daily playlist put up by, again, Eric. Where can people find you?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Where can people find you and your music?
Mike, you want to take that one?
Wow.
I mean, you can stream all of our stuff anywhere you can stream music these days. So we're on Spotify and Pandora and Amazon Music and all of that.
iTunes.
Yeah,
iTunes.
Mike handles all that stuff for us.
And there is a great, I think, Mano, one of you mentioned Jump Up earlier. There's a great vinyl, like a best of, right?
Yeah, so we did actually in Europe, Grover Records, they printed out that's It's basically a best of.
Oh,
So
right, so it was on Grover. Jump Ups, I think, is just carrying.
yeah, exactly. So that's a great chance to get some of our earlier songs that were never released on vinyl. We also have our 45 with Steady Beat,
Yes.
and yeah, everywhere you can stream, and then YouTube if you haven't checked out that Thanksgiving video.
Is the Moving album still distributed through Jump Up also?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah, that's on vinyl too,
And Debonaires are on social media as well. So
and yeah, Debonaires music on Instagram, and just the Debonaires on Facebook. And
all right.
Well, so much eternally great talent. You guys are sitting on a gold mine. Gotta mind it.
Yes. And on that note, much love and respect, and
Mind the
obviously
goal.
we'll
Put the music out.
all right,
Right.
well, thank you.
They thought I was actually talking about real gold. No, I mean,
Yes,
No.
yes.
sitting in a gold mine. So many professionals. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for doing this, and we will I'll continue to love and remember Jason. I know I speak on behalf of his fans and people from the scene and friends. So yeah, thank you all. Guys, have a great night.
Yeah, thank you guys. Good night.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Peace.
Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
You
All
bet.
right. Good night.
Good night.